Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing how to survive your ex never coming back. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing how to survive your ex never coming back. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, it can feel like agony if you seem to be making no progress. In today's podcast, I'll be giving you 3 points to consider regarding how to survive your ex never coming back. So let's get straight into this. And point number 1 is when is never. So if you're listening to today's podcast and you feel that you're in this position where you're thinking, okay, my ex is never coming back, I really need support and how to try and get through this, then I'm asking you the question just to consider yourself of why do you now believe now is the time? Like, when did it hit that point when you realized in your own mind that never is never? Okay, when did you believe that you've now hit the point where your ex is definitely never ever coming back? Because this is a crucial question. If you believe your ex is never coming back, then at what point did that cross the line? Now, was it at the time of a breakup? Did your ex, the dumper, say to you, I never ever want to speak with you again? And therefore, you believe that your ex is never coming back. Maybe it was a little further on than that. And your ex blocked you. Okay, for whatever reason, they blocked you. And now you believe from everything that has happened that your ex is never ever coming back. Maybe you're somebody who listens to others promote things such as the 30-day no contact rule. And therefore, it's been maybe more than 30 days, you've not heard from your ex, you can't get in contact with them, and you're starting to believe, well, they're never coming back now. They can't come back, it's beyond 30 days. Okay, so that's just 3 examples of where you might be feeling your ex is never coming back, so let's quickly just go through those. The first one that I suggested was, at the time of a breakup, your ex said to you, I don't want to ever speak with you again. Now that can be really painful to hear, but what I would say is that people speak in the moment. The fact that they said that to you then doesn't necessarily mean it's how they're going to feel in the future. I can't guarantee what will happen in the future, whether it is for good or for worse, but what I can say is that nobody can definitively say how they're going to feel forevermore. Your ex-dumper likely told you that they loved you in the past. Unfortunately, now they've broken up with you. So you can see there was a change there. They loved you, now they're telling you they don't want to speak again. So if they have had that change, why can't they change again? Okay, I can't guarantee the future, like I said, I can't promise you anything, but what you can see here is that change is possible. The second option I gave to you was the possibility that your ex-dumper has blocked you, for whatever reason it may have been. Now, blocking is not a good position to be in. I'm not going to tell you that being blocked by your ex is great, but what I can say is that I've had many audio coaching clients through the years who, where we've started off on our journey, they've been blocked, and by the end of the journey, they're no longer blocked. So what I can tell you is, even though I can't guarantee your unique situation, I can certainly say that I've seen people be blocked and then unblocked in the future. So again, both of those instances suggest that we can't really call that never, because things changed. The third suggestion I made is maybe you're somebody who listens to the 30-day no contact rule. Now, I do not believe in this rule. I do not promote it. You'll never hear me talk about the 30-day no contact rule in a positive way, but other people do. It's my belief that because there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back, nothing works 100% of the time, and nothing fails 100% of the time, but you're always going to see situations which arise. You're always going to see these random success stories. You're always going to see scenarios which play into a theory. So I'm not saying that people can't follow the 30-day no contact rule and somewhat see success, but what I am saying is that I don't believe it's due to the 30-day no contact rule. It's just the coincidence of it taking place. But those of you who do listen to the 30-day no contact rule and believe that this is such a crucial time, then I'm here to tell you that I've seen exes get back together much, much, much further down the line. So in my belief, that completely cancels out the 30-day no contact rule theory. Similarly, there's the 60-day, the 90-day. They're somewhat similar, just with extended time frames. Again, I've seen people get back together much further down the line. In my experience, the average amount of time that a dumper will reach out to their dumpee is around 6 months. Now, if we consider 6 months as a time bracket, even if you're beyond that point, I'm not going to tell you that you can never, ever, ever get your ex back, because that is the average. And I've seen people get their ex back years down the line. So as we can see, in point number 1, when we're talking about how to survive your ex never coming back, point number 1 is, when is never? When is never? As I've just said, whether it's days, weeks, months, years, I've seen people get their ex back during those time frames. So do we say decades? Is that what we say now? The point is, we never know what the future holds. And I would never say never, but certainly you can't be sitting around, you can't be clock watching, because there's no guarantee either way. But when we're talking about advice, how to survive your ex never coming back, the first way to get through this difficult time is to remind yourself that we never know when the story ends. It is possible. It might happen in the future. Now, maybe you're in a position where this type of thought doesn't help you. Maybe you feel that this is quote-unquote false hope. If that's the case, then maybe you need to be telling yourself that your ex isn't coming back. And then if they do, it's just a wonderful surprise. But either way, you're not going to have me telling you, no, you can definitely never, ever, ever get your ex back, because I've seen and heard some crazy stories that go on for such a long length of time. It's important that we consider when is never. So now let's get into point number 2 of the second point of today's podcast, about how to survive your ex never coming back. And point number 2 is it was real. Now, some dumpees going through the grind really struggle with the thought of whether or not their relationship was even real. Did my ex ever really love me? The way they treated me, they can't have really cared. Was there some type of plan? Was I being used? Were they laughing at me all along? I'm here to tell you that in the vast majority of instances, your relationship was completely real. Your relationship was completely true. Your ex-dumper will look back and remember those good times and would tell you, if they would ever have a conversation in the future, that it did mean an awful lot to them. They loved you. It was real, it was true, it was honest, it was genuine. As I said in point number 1, people speak in the moment. Your ex-dumper ended the relationship, but it doesn't mean that they didn't love you in the past. When they told you that they loved you, they likely did. It's not just words that come out of their mouth for no particular reason. Unfortunately, feelings change and evolve. People grow. Maybe your relationship ended not because you did anything wrong per se, but because you grew in different directions. The people that you were when you met are not the people that you are currently right now. Now, maybe in the future you will align once more, or perhaps you will continue to go in different directions. That's nothing to be scared of. That's personal growth. As long as you're growing, as long as you're moving forward, if you and your ex unfortunately no longer click, that's nothing to be scared about, as long as you're living a positive life, because therefore you could understand, when you have a clear mindset, then you and your ex don't work together for you either. Sometimes people are dumped and it hurts incredibly. It's a terrible, terrible time. But as the months tick by, the dumpee starts to realise, actually, we didn't click as well at the end as we did at the beginning. And I actually wasn't happy myself. And sometimes when you're dumped, you don't actually see the bigger picture, which was, it wasn't actually working for you as it was for them either. Sometimes a dumpee is only a dumpee by a matter of weeks or months, whereas if it hadn't have taken place, we could have seen you become the dumper. If a breakup didn't happen when it did, then future plans would have shown you ending the relationship because you were not feeling fulfilled either. The breakup can cloud your mindset, but remember that a dumpee is often not far from being a dumper. It's often just a variation of the timeline, who got in there first, that actually makes that decision. But never ever forget that your relationship was real. It was real, it was true, you loved them, they loved you, and in the future, they might love you again. Nothing can be guaranteed, but if we look forward with a positive mindset and remember that in the past they did love you, and they probably still love you to a degree even now, even though it's maybe not enough romantic love, then you can move forward easier. It's often really difficult to get through that breakup, to think to yourself, my ex is never coming back, but the blow can be softened somewhat if you understand that it was real, it was true, you had happiness with somebody in your life, and you will have happiness again. I can't guarantee it's with your ex, but if you live your life in the right way, you can find somebody even better. So how to survive your ex never coming back with point number 2 is it was real, and therefore it can be real again. If not with them, but with somebody even better. You've got proof of concept you can have a romantic relationship. You can and will have another. So stand up tall, keep your head high, and live your life to the full. If you want advice and support on how to try to increase the chance of getting your ex back, if you want support and guidance how to get through breakup recovery, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about how to survive your ex never coming back. And point number 3 is these could be the best days of our lives. And a bonus point for any of you who recognise where that lyric comes from one of my favourite bands. Type it in the YouTube comments if you know the name of the song. But when I say these could be the best days of our lives, what I'm referencing here is the fact that you have to understand that there's one thing going for you right now as somebody who has just been dumped. And that is you have time to live your life to the full. You might not feel like living your life to the full, but you have the gift of time. When you're in a relationship, you have a lot less time to do what you want to do. You have a natural responsibility to consider what your partner wants to do. You have responsibilities. You have a lifestyle that needs to be shared. Whereas right now, the one benefit that you have as a single person, somewhat recently dumped, is that you can do what you want to do on your time frame. And these can be the best days of our lives. You can do the things that you always wanted to do but couldn't. Maybe your ex didn't want to travel, but you always did. Well, now is the time to travel. Maybe your ex didn't really like you spending time with certain friends, not because they're a bad influence, but just because they always wanted to be with you 24/7. Well, guess what? Now you can spend time with your friends. Now you can pursue those hobbies, dreams, goals, aspirations that maybe your ex prevented you from doing for whatever reason, or maybe just time was not there for you to do. You will get into a new relationship. You will feel happiness again. It may be with your ex, it may be with somebody new, but you will live that life within a relationship again, and it's probably going to come around fairly quickly in your mind. Okay, it might be months, it might be more than a year, but it will feel very quick when you're back in a new relationship and you're thinking back to your single days. When people are in a relationship, one of the things they often crave is living their life the way they want to do it. It's sometimes one of the most difficult things about being in a relationship, but you have to make the sacrifice, you have to have compromise, you have to obviously respect your partner's thoughts and wishes and do things together, which is great, but you will often lose some of that individuality, some of that time, some of that opportunity to do what you want to do. So make sure you use these opportunities to your advantage. Because if you spoke to somebody now who's been married for 20 years, they'd probably say to you, do what you can do right now. Because in the future, when you're in a happy, loving relationship, you might not have a chance to do it. That's not necessarily a bad thing in per se that you're enjoying a relationship, but there's going to be things that you can't do later on. So please make sure that you do what you want to do now, because in the future, you might not get a chance to. This time next year, you could be in a loving relationship with your ex or with somebody new, but that might mean that you can't do your life ambition. For whatever reason, you might not be able to achieve your life goal, whether it's time, responsibility, finances, opportunity, whatever it may be, you might not be able to do it. So this is your time, this is your moment, and remember that these could be the best days of our lives. You will look back in the future with a smile at what you do now. Don't look back in the future and think, they were the days where I just stayed at home in my bedroom every single day with my head in my hands, feeling sad and upset, not doing anything at all. That's what you're going to be regretting. In most instances, the things that we regret are what we don't do rather than what we have done. So make sure that you don't regret things that you didn't do, you didn't achieve. Look on your calendar. Look at your planner. What have you got going on in the weeks and months ahead? Get things in the diary. Speak to friends and family. Achieve your goals. Live your dreams. Remember that your aspirations can be achieved and obtained ASAP, because if you don't, you might live to regret it. Don't live that regret. I can guarantee you that you will find happiness again if you live your life the right way. It might not be with your ex, it might be with somebody new, but either way, if it's happiness, if it's fulfilling, it doesn't matter. But it might mean you can't do what you can do as a single person. So please do that now and don't have regret. These could be the best days of our lives. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.